for all of us, if you're an entrepreneur or you're trying to grow a personal brand, there's one preoccupying question right now. How can we be heard?
Good morning, good life. In this episode, we're getting into the details about your cumulative advantage. How do you find and pursue the momentum you need for your desired success? I'm sitting down with my friend and best-selling author Mark Schaefer to help you make it happen. It's time for some detail therapy so that you can uncover your path to going after the life you want.
She's an award-winning YouTuber and best-selling author, obsessed with helping you go after the life you want.
I like it.
Join her as she seeks out the stories and strategies
Give me every little detail.
of extraordinary people who found success.
I'm going to get emotional. Oh my God.
Welcome to Detail Therapy with Amy Landino.
You know, I forgot how much Zoom meetings are actually fun when you get to sit down with your friends who are brilliant and have great ideas. I have been loving these interviews. I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking. Make sure you share that in your reviews or in your Instagram comments for the show because it's been giving me a little bit of life here in lockdown. I don't know how you're doing, but this is a good one. Let me give you a little bit of a soundbite of what you can expect from my chat with Mark today.
Behind every successful person and every successful company, there's a random event. There's something random, right? And I can even point to things in my life. It's like, oh my gosh, if that hadn't happened, if I hadn't pursued that idea, where would I be?
Oh, this is such a good conversation. Hey, if you're new here, hello, my name is Amy Landino and I will be your host. I'm a success coach and founder at Gatlu House, a resource dedicated to helping you go after the life you want. You can see all of our work, including the show notes for this podcast, by visiting detailtherapy.online. Before we get into my chat about creating your cumulative advantage with Mark Schaefer today, I want to give a little nod to the sponsor of this episode of Detail Therapy, and that is the Good Morning, Good Life Planner. You are going to be so excited when you hear me say these words. We have restocked. Yes, that's right. The planner was sold out for a little while. You know, e-commerce is crazy in a time of a pandemic. It's very, very hard to get your hands on planners. Even me, it was hard for me to get my hands on them, and we got them. They're back in stock. So if you would like the planner that's going to help you start the day on your terms and help you make sure you have those 3 morning moments that give you that amazing start to the day movement, mindfulness, and mastery, the Good Morning Good Life Planner is now back in stock at gatlu.store. I'm so excited. We've had so many DMs coming in, so many emails like, hey, did you guys know there's a glitch on the website? It says they're sold out. Yes, they're still sold out. I'm sorry, but now they're back. It was way too long and now they're back. So I just wanted to make sure I let you know. If you know somebody who's got a little birthday coming up or they need a little pick me up because the pandemic has been super hard for them and they're not starting the day on their terms, get that Good Morning Good Life Planner. There's also a bundle pack if they need the book as well. The book and the planner are available at gatlu.store. Thank you so much to everybody who's been so supportive of this planner and been wanting to get their hands on it. It is now back, and I'm so excited to share that with you today. On to my interview with Mark Schaefer. Mark is a globally recognized author, speaker, podcaster, and business consultant. He's one of the world's leading marketing authorities and keynote speakers. His blog, Grow, is one of the top 5 marketing blogs of the world with many global clients, including Dell, Adidas, and the U.S. Air Force. Please welcome Mark Schaefer. Mark Schaefer, welcome to Detail Therapy.
Amy, I'm so happy to see you.
I'm so excited to see you. Why do you do what you do?
This is a very simple question for me to answer because I hear from somebody about once a week. They tell me, you've changed my life. And through my blog, through my books, through my podcast or something. And I think I would be a very lucky person to hear that one time in my whole life. And it's just like, why, how could I ever stop what I'm doing when I'm having an impact on people like that? So that is my fuel.
I love that. And I that makes a lot of sense. You got a lot of books, Mark. How many have you published now?
9.
9. That's a
Yeah,
lot of books.
it is.
And your latest one is Cumulative Advantage: How to Build Momentum for Your Ideas, Business, and Life Against All Odds. What inspired you to make this one next? What was this? What was the reason behind this one?
It seems like I've got this pattern of writing a book every 2 years or so, but I really don't. I write a book when I see a problem that is just burning and burning. And for all of us, if you're an entrepreneur or you're trying to grow a personal brand, there's one preoccupying question right now. How can we be heard? How can we be seen? And Amy, I saw this amazing statistic that since the pandemic started, the amount of content just on LinkedIn has doubled. So arguably, if it was hard to stand out before, it's like twice as hard to stand out now because everybody's doing great stuff. And so I'm like obsessed with this. What do we do? What do we do? And I thought we need to build momentum, because even if we're doing great work, maybe we're being buried and we deserve better. And so I went down this deep, deep rabbit hole of, is there a way to build momentum? Is there a pattern? And what I found is that there's been a lot of research in this area, but it's never really been applied to people and businesses in a practical way. And so that's what I unlocked in this book. How do you build momentum for what you're doing?
That is so interesting. And also, I just have to commend you because I feel like we're kindred spirits. Other than the fact that we also share a birthday, I want to
We
say that too.
do.
We're birthday buddies. I love that. I feel like we're kindred spirits in that, I was actually thinking last night, oh, my book came out, my first one came out this year, and then my next one, like I'm not trying to time the releases, but it
Right.
is, like you said, you hear a question
Yeah.
and you are a thought leader and you want to answer that question, and it's just constantly the evolution of like, how do we
Right.
just get to the root of the pure issue of what people are
Yeah.
asking?
And it gets to a point where it's like burning inside you, because writing a book is such a big commitment and sacrifice and risk I know you take it seriously like I do. In your books, there's an inspiration or an idea on every single page. And I try to write books the same way. It's not fluff. And it takes 2 years of reading and researching and writing to create a book. And so it's not something I take lightly.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Okay, so I wanted to kind of pull this idea, cumulative advantage. It might just sound like, hard to understand right away. I just want to kind of unpack it for people. So I'm going to read what you wrote in the book about it. Your principle for cumulative advantage. It says that once a person gains a small advantage over others in their field, that advantage will compound over time into increasingly larger advantages, but not always. So I thought that was so interesting, not just that you really spell it out. And now that people are hearing, like, what does it actually mean? Now they're like, oh yeah, totally. Totally. People are always set further ahead than me in the way that I'm feeling pulled back. But then to then have that followed up with, but not always, what does that mean? Like, what are we really trying what is really going to get us to that point of momentum where we, even if we don't have everything our competitor might have before us,
Yeah.
what's going to help move us forward?
Yeah. So three main things to answer your question, because that's a big, big question. And first, I'll also say that definition of cumulative advantage is based on years and years of sociological research. This is something that's been proven over and over again in athletics, in education, in entertainment, in tech, you name it. So three big things. First of all, momentum doesn't just happen with an idea. You need to pursue the idea. And then ultimately, it needs to fit what I call a seam in the world. So look, there are millions of great ideas out there, and you can't lament that you don't have any success because you have ideas. That's just not enough. So that's number one. Number two, and I think that this is a book of great hope, because if you look at this pattern of momentum that repeats over and over again with people in the world, there's nothing about this that's not accessible to anyone. You don't need $1 million. You don't need an Ivy League education. You don't need relationships with big influencers to get ahead. You don't. And so this is a big idea. In fact, this is not me talking. The research shows that behind every successful person and every successful company, there's a random event. There's something random, right? And I can even point to things in my life. It's like, oh my gosh, if that hadn't happened, if I hadn't pursued that idea, where would I be? If I didn't have this person help me along the way, where would I be? And then the third thing is that, so you ask this thing, cumulative advantage. If you have this advantage and play your cards right, it can create this unstoppable momentum, but not always. And the not always part is that people quit. They quit too soon. They make, unfortunate decisions. Once you build momentum, you have to make good decisions to sustain that. And there's an important lesson, I think, for today. Because look, we're in a pandemic and a lot of things are going wrong. And a lot of people are panicking. And the famous author, Jim Collins, calls this the doom loop. When you lose sight of what makes you great, you lose sight of why your customers love you, keep coming back to you, and you start panicking and grasping for straws. What I advise people right now, here's our job, fight to the other side, right? We've got another 6 or 9 months of this pandemic left. Land on the other side. If your competitors aren't, you do it. Do whatever it takes to survive, land on the other side. Don't go into the doom loop. That's not to say you shouldn't be aware of opportunities, aware of maybe how you need to adjust, but don't panic and ruin the core competency that you have.
I have to point out another book right now because I happen to have been reading another book at the same time I was reading Cumulative Advantage. And I think that it's kind of backing up a lot of what you're saying on the quitting side. I like to reread The Dip by Seth Godin, right?
Yeah.
And he kind of talks about that too. I'm connecting the dots here that we're usually in this situation where we get into the doom loop and we think about quitting because we've been working and working and working at something so hard. We maybe didn't feel like we had that initial advantage. And I want you to kind of unpack that at some point as well.
Yeah.
But we want to quit but it's usually because of distraction, right? Because we forgot that we were trying to be the best in the world at something by then adding all these other things like, oh, this is the hot thing right now. And that's also the hot thing. And we should try that. And if we're great at this, we'd be really good at that too. We might be able to make money at that. And we start to add a lot of other elements, and the distractions, I think, come together and add so much pressure and take away so much time that is actually the thing that's pointing to us to quit. And now we've forgotten, like, what's the actual thing we should be quitting because we're trying to be the best in the world. So do you feel like there's a connection to that there? I love what you said about it's the pursuit of the idea. The idea is not enough.
Right. And so to build on your observation, I mean, I think there's a lot of pressure in the world to be everywhere and do everything. And, we see, oh my gosh, our competitors started a podcast and now they're on Clubhouse and we need to do all this. And, your comment that we need to be great at what we do, we can't be great in 5 places. If you're a small business or an entrepreneur, you're trying to build your brand or your personal brand, you do have to be great at what you do. You have to be focused and build your audience before you start fragmenting in other places. And I know some marketing advisors out there say, you got to be everywhere. You got to be everywhere. You got to plant your flag everywhere. And that, if you've got, a media crew following you around, okay, maybe, but you've got to see what means something to my audience and what brings me joy. So if what you're doing isn't bringing you joy, that is going to show up. And if you're having joy and you're having fun, then that's going to show up and your audience is going to come along and it'll be attracting like moths to a flame. They're going to be attracted to your energy and to your joy. So that's important. And that's why I blogged for, I think, 5 years or 6 years before I ever started a podcast. Why? Because I will never let my audience down. That's always in my head. Every podcast episode, every blog post, every book, I think I will not let you down. And in fact, this week I had a post I was ready to publish. I thought, you know what? That post is not good enough. I'm not publishing that. I got to work on something else that's worthy of my audience. And that's what will drive long-term success, is that bring this audience together and then earn the right for their attention every single day. It's hard to do that in 5 places. It really is.
It is. It's so hard. And we now see that there are individuals and companies that are building media companies within their organization in order to be able to sustain that, because
Yeah.
there really is, especially those listening who are bootstrapping. That's a frustrating thing to hear, right? Like, how are you supposed to compete with that? Well, it's that striving for excellence. That's hopefully going to be that guiding light, because there's
Yes.
really only going to be one, maybe 2 ways that you're going to be able to do that
Mhm.
without, driving yourself crazy and being too
Mhm.
distracted. One
Right.
of the other things that you said was the random event.
Yes.
The random event that happens. Now, what would you say to someone who's like, "Oh, luck. Oh, okay. Well, I don't have any luck. These random events, these things." What would you say to someone that maybe they are getting distracted and thinking about quitting and not striving for that excellence because they think they're not going to get a random event in the right direction? They don't have that luck that might hit.
Well, it's, I hesitate to call it luck, I guess. I mean, because luck seems sort of elitist in some way. Like some may have it and some may don't, some may not. But everybody has random events, right? It's just being aware of your environment and seeing opportunity. That's really how that begins momentum. There's a story in the book that a lot of people have loved about, in how Nike got started. It was a track coach, and he was teaching high school athletes. And back in the day, they had to wear metal spikes on the back of their shoes. And one day he's sitting there in his kitchen, and his wife is making waffles. And he sees her pull this waffle from a waffle iron. And he said, that could be the bottom of a shoe. And so he goes back to a high school chemistry lab, gets latex, pours it in the waffle iron, pulls out the thing, and said, I could stitch that into a shoe. That's how Nike got started. One of the biggest brands in the world. And fun fact, that old rusted waffle iron is sitting in a glass case at Nike headquarters like a museum piece, because that's the random event that started Nike. I mean, I can point to a random event that can explain exactly why I'm talking to you today. I was stuck in my marketing career. Like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? My boss isn't going anywhere. And the internet was beginning. And I was interested in the internet. I had some ideas. I think there could be some business applications to the internet, which was a radical idea at the time. So I go to my boss. I said, I would like an AOL account. And I'd like to put it on my expense account for $9 a month. After a debate over what a waste of money this would be, he agreed. And my ideas worked. I pursued the idea. I didn't just have an idea. I fought for it. Now, then what happened? The timing is right. A seam is opening for business opportunities on the internet. I pursued the idea. It was a random event. This conversation with my boss, I became the director of e-business for a global Fortune 100 company, eventually started my own business, eventually started consulting, started blogging to learn about social media. The blog turned into books. And why am I sitting here with you today? Because I'm known in this space. It started with asking my boss for an AOL account in the 1990s. That's why I'm here with you today. Advantage builds on advantage. Advantage builds on advantage. It was one small thing. I was the first person in a Fortune 100 company that was on the internet. when my company looked around and said, we need to build an e-business department. Who shall run it? Oh, Mark, you've been on the internet a long time. You do it. So advantage built, and it wasn't really luck. It was curiosity. It was pursuing the idea. And maybe, sometimes your ideas fit, sometimes they don't. But what I talk about in my book is this new idea to think about strategy. It's not one thing and one idea that you just drive and drive and drive for years. These opportunities, these fractures in our world, these shifts are happening minute by minute by minute. If your idea doesn't work, yesterday, maybe it'll work tomorrow in a new way. So we always have to just be looking at, and this is what I hope people will get out of the book. Once they understand this pattern of momentum, they'll understand why some other ideas work and others don't, and how to keep trying and how to get to that next level.
I love that. And I'm just thinking, how many people have maybe seen an initial advantage happen for themselves, but because we couldn't see the vision and really have the audacity to stick with it and keep working at it.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's the pursuit.
Right.
It's very, even in your situation, right? Like your opening to the book was your comparison to Tim Ferriss and Tim Ferriss's trajectory. And you showed a lot of like really common timeline things that happened, and you've had a fabulous career. So has he. They look different, and here's all the different things, but it's about this happened and sticking with it. But it's very easy for you to say like, well, Tim's more successful in a lot of ways than me, so I'll just let him have all the success. We'll just let me just make more room for him. That's not the point here. We all have that initial point of advantage. Yours was getting your AOL account maybe, and a couple of other things probably.
Right.
And saying that even if I take my blinders off, it looks like other people are having success as well. I can take the initial advantage that I've had and lean into it, stop the comparison game, and just work with what I've been given.
Yeah, I mean, you make some very important points there, and I know you and I are really aligned in this. Is that one of the problems is that people give up too soon, and one of the things I talk about in my book, Known, which is about personal branding, is that there is no such thing as an overnight success. You are not an overnight success, right? And I blogged 650 weeks in a row without missing. I've had my podcast 9 years. I've never missed an episode, right? Take a vacation, get sick, whatever. Keep it going, right? Consistency. So, and one of the things I encourage people is when you're creating something new like this, it's sort of like it bubbles along, and you might feel frustrating, and then it starts to move. And here's what you need to pay attention to. It's qualitative measures like, here, I'm creating this, I'm trying something new with my business. Are people starting to ask you questions? Are they saying, can you be on my podcast? Could you contribute to my blog? Are they sharing your content? Now, this isn't orders and it's not money, but it's signs that you're becoming known, that this thing is working. As long as you're seeing those qualitative measures, keep going. It shows that it's working. And you might get lucky. Most people don't. It's just consistent effort, excellent effort, generosity, being the best you can be, and serving your customers.
Yeah. And I've said this in the past on the podcast. Next time you want to say like, oh, somebody's just got the perfect thing, or their presence is perfect, everything they do seems to just be on point. Rather than calling it perfectionism, call it excellence, right? Because that's really what we're talking about, is somebody's worked very, very hard. That could be you, that could be somebody else. And every single time you show up, it's you displaying and making good on your excellence. I want to get to some details of your day. Before I do, I kind of want to put a little cap on this piece of the conversation by asking you to explain what you talk about in the book called the sonic boom. Can
Sonic
you
boom.
explain what that is? Because I love this. I love this word.
Well, I'm a marketing geek, so this was like my favorite part of the book. And what this talks about is sort of a new way to look at awareness. That when something goes viral, it's not really like we think. It's like a friend tells another friend. Usually in that model, it stops at like the second friend. But the sonic boom is a new way to think about awareness. And it's also tied to your personal brand. The longer you work on your personal brand, the bigger the sonic boom you can create. There are a couple ideas I have in this that I think will be new to people. One is about this idea of working with people who have a big voice, who have a big audience, who can help you and support you. And the other thing is the essential idea of geez, I'm dropping the darn word. Uh, it's when you walk into a restaurant and you see one restaurant is empty. Social proof. Okay. Social proof, very, very powerful. So if there's validation that what you're doing is good and important, that's why on every page of your website, you should have quotes and testimonies that people feel comfortable. I'm making a good decision, right? And it shows some extreme examples of social proof where it takes bad content and makes it very popular because people are seeing good reviews of bad content. It was an experiment. So there's a great lessons there for social media, content, building a business, building a reputation that I think will be new and really fun and exciting for people to learn about.
I love that. I love practical advice when it comes to, how do you promote yourself? So many people
Yeah.
feeling like they're starting from zero. It's
Yeah.
the reminder that you're never starting from zero if you really care about the relationships in your life and going to those
Mhm.
people and being able to know how to ask and say, can you help me with this? And always being willing to help others as well. I mean, Mark and I just talked about this right before we hit record. He was like, thanks for having me on the show. And I'm like, of course. He's like, let me know if you need anything. It's that. And you start with something as simple as having those relationships that they compound over time and showing up for your communities. So anyway, everybody, please go check out the book. Cumulative Advantage is available in all the places, I assume, especially the Amazon worlds. But we'll link to it in the show notes as well. Mark, I want to ask you a little bit about what it's like to be you and the details of your day. What is your morning routine like?
I am an early riser like you. I tend to start work right away, and because it's fun. I've got a global audience, and so things are happening overnight, and so I get up early in the morning, and usually kind of get up to speed with the news, and then I get right into what's the world wanting me to do today.
I love that. That's my one thing. It's like I'm showing up to master my craft today. What am I going to do? I love that.
Mhm.
What are some things that you do to take care of yourself or stay active?
I'm a very active person, and I'm lucky. I live in a nice area. I live in East Tennessee, where there's lots of mountains and trails, and so I like to play tennis. I ride my bike. I go hiking. I do boating and kayaking, and I love gardening is sort of a Zen thing for me. I just get it's almost like my neighbors must think I'm like stupid. Like I'll plant like this garden, and I just like seeing how the plants grow every day.
It's amazing, right?
I'll look at plants every day to notice something new and amazing. I just take great joy, and I take great joy in sunshine and flowers, and just I notice little things. And like last night, I had some family over to my house. We had a fire pit, and in this big tree in front of our house, there was an owl, a big owl. And I mean, that just that what a I don't know if that's self care, but I take joy in little things like that, and just appreciating small things, small
I
joys.
totally think that's self-care. I especially in a world where we get instant gratification
Mhm.
all the time, you start to realize that your happiness, like finding where your true happiness is usually in
Mm.
those slower things. And I will say, I'm becoming a little birder over here. I've got my little bird feeder in the backyard.
Me
And
too. I
they're
love
normal
it.
birds, but I still love them. I don't care.
I love it. I have like this bird book, and I check off the books, the birds that I see.
Oh, that's such a good idea. I need to do that. I need to do
Yeah.
that. I need to get myself a bird book. Okay. When it comes to staying organized, you show up for work every day. Like what are the resources that you rely on? So is it like, are you very calendar based? Are you very project manager based? Are you very notepad and pen based? What's giving you
Yeah.
that direction?
Really all of those. I'm very I'm a pretty organized person. I'm a very disciplined person. And a lot of I do so much. And as you mentioned, I've written a lot of books and I have a lot of clients. And I think the real secret is discipline. To not we talked about this a little bit about not being distracted by the shiny red ball and what's next, what's new, but say, look, here are the three things that drive my business. Here are the three things that build my business. If I have an opportunity that doesn't serve one of those three things, I say no, or I find a way to outsource it, or I try to, maybe help people in a way that doesn't take my discipline away from these things. I'm also disciplined around my to-do list and say, here are the things that are important instead of fun. I've got to do those important things first. You got to do the important things first. It's easy to get distracted and do the fun things because they're fast and they're easy. But that's my key to productivity is just really focus and discipline.
Awesome. Mark, where can people go check you out, follow you online, get the book? Where's the best place to follow up with you?
You can find everything about me at businessesgrow.com. It's hard to remember how to spell Schaefer, and but businesses grow. You can find my blog, my podcast, all my social media connections, and I've written quite a lot of different kinds of marketing business related books, and there's a book really I think for everybody at this point.
Yeah, and I was gonna just say, I published Vlog Like a Boss, I think around the same time that you published Known. We ended up doing a little
Yeah.
co-interview.
Yeah.
And so I highly recommend if you guys appreciated Vlog Like a Boss, after you read Cumulative Advantage by Mark, go read Known. I definitely think that that's gonna go very well hand in hand.
Mhm.
But yeah, we will link to all those places in the show notes. Mark, I have to ask you my final question.
Okay.
What does it mean to you to go after the life you want?
I had a really rough 2020. I was sick a lot, had COVID, my business crashed. That's a long story. Came back, wrote the book, took everything out of me. I took a month off in January. And what I tried to do was really take a month off of work. And I'm laying on the beach. I'm thinking, but I miss work. Wait a minute. I've got this old fashioned view of work. My old fashioned view of work is growing up in my, blue collar kind of German stoic family that you're supposed to get away from work and work is to be avoided. I had this realization that doesn't fit me anymore, that I have a life where it's all together and it's rewarding. I help people. I love what I do. I have fun every day. And work is something to be embraced and it creates joy in me. And I really think that's the ultimate thing to go for.
Mark Schaefer, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Amy. What a delight.
Love having a chat with my birthday buddy, Mark. Thank you so much for being on the show today. You guys go check out all of his deets, get the book, follow him on social, check out the blog that he has been posting to for so long, religiously, the best of the best of the best content. All of that will be linked in the show notes. Again, don't forget to check out the Good Morning Good Life Planner. It is back in stock at gatlu.store. store. And thank you to all of you who have been taking the time to go to the Apple Podcast shop and leave a little review of this podcast. That 5 stars, even whatever you say in the comment, it helps us so much to know what we need to do next and where we need to go. And even as this season is going to come to a close in a couple of weeks, we are trying to plan for the best of the best when we come back. And that all has to do with what you share with us. So if you've not already left a review, please do take the time to do that, because it's going to help us so much, and we are helped so that we can help you. That's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. Remember, subscribe for good vibes, kiss the ones you love, and go after the life you want. I'll see you back here next Tuesday. Cheers.